Oh, hello, and welcome to Al Dente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey. The E stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. And tonight we have, folks, it's September, as of this posting. And you know what that means? It's Ichor Fall.
Yeah.
So we're back in Ichor Fall stories, the submitted stuff that fans have forwarded for stories to kind of go into the annals of Ichor Fall's tales and such.
It's been a long time since we've talked about Ichor Fall stories. Like a year, maybe.
Yeah, it's been an entire year. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Weird, right?
Yeah, and so I thought we'd start off with the Blue Man Group. I mean, the Blue Man.
Okay. I may have read a different story then. Hang on, let me read this.
You just read the Wikipedia article for the Blue Man Group.
Yeah, I thought it was weird, but
Yeah,
I was like, okay.
I just thought we were doing a kitchen episode.
Yeah.
No. So yeah, this story is called The Blue Man. The author is currently unknown, like anonymous, because they didn't give their name when they submitted it on the Ichor Falls website. As with a bunch of as with all the submitted stories, you can check them out at the submitted page on ichorfalls.com. So, and as always, I will dive into the rundown. So, I'm gonna start with the. So I'm gonna do the story has a bunch of like little introductory poems from a folkloric ballad about the Blue Man. So, I'm going to my rundown's going to be interspliced with those. Just FYI. We start with, if you see the Blue Man walk, mind to him you do not talk. For if you see... Sorry, I gotta do this in a drawl. This is American.
Of course.
If you... Fuck.
I mean, I don't think the poem needs to be.
All right, fine. For if you see the Blue Man smile, your sweet soul he will defile. And that's from The Blue Man, a traditional folk ballad. So we start off after that with Samuel Douglas, a farmer in the Midwest, and he's driving home from town when he sees a man on the side of the road walking in all blue and spiffy clean, despite his dirty surroundings. Like despite trekking through mud and stuff like that, he seems impeccably clean. When he stops by the guy to ask if he needs a lift, Samuel sees his black eyes and toothy smile and immediately drives off to his home, in fact, where he grabs a hammer, kills his wife, and then blows his head off with a shotgun. Folks afterward don't know why he did it and just sort of shrug it off and move on with their lives. We then move on to the next part of the story, which is opened up with this part of the poem. On lonely roads and old highways, the Blue Man walks in jaunts and sways. A cold black heart and ivory smile, he'll walk you down that long last mile. And then we see Franklin, or Frankie as he would adamantly have you call him, is a drunk and the most annoying barfly who drinks the cheapest swill in the place and just doesn't shut up the entire time he's in the bar, and which is usually 9 to 12. On one such night, Johnny, the bartender, finally has it and cuts Frankie off, to which Frankie defiantly stumbles out of the bar to drunkenly drive home. On the way home, he hits a man in denim on the side of the road. Checking if the man is hurt, he finds the figure has gotten up and is continuing to walk. When Frankie catches up to him and grabs him, turning him around and to ask him to make sure he's all right and such, he is horrified at the black eyes and gleaming smile and his horribly unclean hands that touched the man. He ditches the man and his car, running the whole way home. It's there that he boils and then burns his hands to make them clean, smiling with contentment as he does so. A year later, he can be seen in the bar, with hooks instead of hands, sipping gut-rot whiskey and never talking, even once. Johnny the bartender, doesn't know what happened to him that night, the night that he burned off his hands, and is never able to get an answer from Frankie. So he just sort of shrugs this off as something that happens and moves on with his life. We then move on to the next verse. Madness and death are his old friends, and with them he doles out grisly ends, for the one who stops and talks, from the blue man who forever walks. We now see Deke and Hugh, or Deke and Hugh. I think it's Deke and Hugh.
I think it's Hugh. Isn't that Hugh?
Is it Hugh?
Like short for Huey? I don't know.
Oh, maybe,
sure.
yeah. Yeah, it's English is hard.
And the worst.
Yeah. So Deke and Hugh have this old time friend, Mick, who they did petty crimes with when they were always hanging out. A few years in prison for having drugs. Mick came out of the slammer meaner and wanting to do more than just petty stuff. However, most of the time, the trio just simply drive all night with Mick behind the wheel, Hugh in the back, and Dick, sorry, and Deke in the passenger seat, trying desperately to start a conversation. One such evening, Mick spots a man on the side of the road, and the gang decides to mug him. Mick walks right up to this tall man in denim, ahead of the other guys, and looks him straight in the eyes as he threatens him. Deke gets a weird feeling about this guy, and that is only confirmed when Mick begins laughing wildly and runs back to the car with Deke and Hugh chasing after him. They leave the man on the roadside. The next morning, Mick robs the bank and is gunned down by police, laughing as it happens. That night, at a local bar, Deke overhears what happened, and people are shrugging it off as something that just happens sometimes. But Deke isn't so certain. And that's where the story ends. So, I suppose we shall now move on to Everyone Tolerates the Grammar Inquisitions at this point. So yeah, I've got a couple. He saw that it was man, and a big one at that. So yeah, it's missing the A between was and man. So it's like, it should say, he saw that it was a man.
I also recommend putting a comma after man.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yep.
And I'll move on to my next one here. The man's jeans looked worn and faded, and Sam noticed there wasn't any mud on them, even though the man was standing inch deep in a puddle. Okay, so for this one, I would probably replace but. Or I would replace and with but. So, the man and where I play is the man's jeans looked worn and faded, but Sam noticed there wasn't any mud on them, even though the man was standing inch deep in a puddle.
What's the actual one? It's an and?
It's just an and, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember reading it and it kind of like bugged me. Like, it's like, it should be sort of like, there should be a counter, like sort of note here rather than an additive word. Moving on though, the blue man turned on his heels and black eyes took a hold on Sam. I think it needs to be took hold of Sam, or took hold of Sam's, rather than took a hold on Sam's. Like, even get rid of the a hold, like make it just hold. And if no one's going to counter me or anything, I will move on.
I mean, I don't have a problem with it, but I don't know what I would correct it to.
Well, I just gave how I'd fix it. Anyway, moving on. They were so much in love, people said. Here's another one where you need a comma, I think. Because when I first read that, they were so much in love, people said. Oh, okay. So it's like, they were so much in love, comma, people said. And then,
oh yeah, I see that.
Yeah. And then my next one.
Where people said that they were so much in love.
Yeah, just sort of like even like rework the sentence a little bit to be clear.
Where everyone knew they were so much in love.
Yeah. That's just the way things are sometimes. Was the only answer they could come up with. So I think they just need to remove the only.
I didn't even notice that.
Mm-hmm. And then my next one, Johnny wasn't about end up listening to Frankie all night. I think you want Johnny wasn't about to end up listening to Johnny all night.
Mm-hmm.
My next one, he scrabbled for it, got a grip on it, and began to click it while it was pointed at his left hand.
How many points did you get for that word?
I literally was going to start this with he immediately engaged in a game of Scrabble with the blue man. Nope.
Yes.
I think it's he scrambled from it, or he scrambled for it. Like, because to scramble is a type of like bug out, get the hell out of, get away from something sort of thing.
Yes.
And then my next one here, actually this is my last one. Mick came around the counter, slammed his gun into the locks of the cash drawers. So, again, we need, maybe not comma, but like, Mick came around the counter and slammed his gun into the locks of the cash drawers.
Mm-hmm.
And that is my Grammar Inquisition. So, Mikey, the E stands for evil.
All right. I have one, and then a conjunction junction.
Okay.
And my one might be more of a vernacular issue. So it's Samuel Douglas drove home from town, taking the main highway instead of the usual back roads that he was particular to. So it's the particular that I didn't really like, or that I
Yeah.
stumbled over.
But
So
sorry, continue.
so I just, if it was the back roads that he was used to.
Yeah.
Um,
That said, I can see what you mean by it might be a vernacular thing, because I have definitely heard that as like I could see that being like almost like a bit of an accent sort of thing, or like a localism.
mhm.
So
Yeah. So onwards to conjunction junction.
all right, and next stop, conjunction junction. Doot, doot.
It wouldn't be too long before Ned Harrison sold, though. It was getting past 5, and the sun had already started its downward climb, but the sun's heat lingered here, and could wear a fellow down while he was working. But Sam, startled, was far beyond caring, and just kept on home. Not speeding, but driving purposefully all the way up to his house. And then his face was gone. And the man talked. It just didn't matter. But when Frankie got there, the man was already up and walking away from him, headlight lighting up his back. It wasn't enough. It was difficult, but he finally managed to get it open and pour a liberal amount of gasoline on each hand. And then stopped, and a smile lit up his face. It just happened out of the blue. But then Mick got sent up the river for a 2-year stretch. And Mick obviously kept his mouth shut, because neither of them received a visit from the boys in blue. And he was always going for bigger and bigger crimes. It wasn't just about having fun anymore, trying to relieve small town boredom. and he was slowing the car down. And then Mick began to laugh. It was a bad sound, a sound that made your skin crawl. It was just so wild. And as Mick made a sharp U-turn in the middle of the road, Deke turned to see the blue man walking down the road. But one of the tellers moved too slowly for Mick's taste, and he shot her where she stood. But one looked up and stared right into Mick's eyes and saw pools of ink. But Deke knew better. Finn.
I was very curious to see how this was going to play out because of the fact that this is three separate encounters with the Blue Man from three separate people.
Yeah, it's almost like a freaking nonsensical dream sort of thing where it's like all of a sudden the characters just morph into another character and it's not explained.
Yeah, exactly. It's just suddenly there's a guy. Suddenly there's a character that was not referenced before. Like suddenly we're focusing on them.
Mm-hmm. Hell, right at the start, it's led with Ned Harrison potentially selling his business soon. So like the entire thing is around him. Like he's the main character now.
Yeah.
Even though he's just a dude that's mentioned.
Yeah. Also, what was the part was? Fuck. There's something that you one of the things that you read, like I had like a thing, but I can't remember what it was. Damn it. I was going to comment.
Yeah, I keep meaning to write down my notes when I'm listening to him, but I keep forgetting to do it.
Yeah.
The part about the guy with his face was gone.
that was actually kind of funny. And then his face was gone. He got home and his face was just suddenly gone.
Okay.
I don't think that was it. Oh, it was the Mick made a U-turn in the road, and then the teller didn't make it fast, so Nick shot her. It's just like I just imagine Mick just like seeing this woman like trying to get out of the way, and just like nope, pulls like goes like leans out the car window, just pulls a gun and just blasts her away before she even gets hit
from the street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And for those unaware, Mikey does these strings of sentences to highlight all the sentences that start with words that they shouldn't. Like its, ands, or buts, because they're meant to be in the middle. And them at the front, there's always better choices.
Mm-hmm. And that's it then for your grammar inquisition, Mikey?
Yes.
All right. Then we shall move on to gamer.
Okay. My first one, there's an extra space in between the second and third paragraph for some reason.
Oh, okay. Odd.
It's not a thing I normally see.
Oh yeah, I see that.
Mm-hmm. This next one, his thoughts drifted away as he saw a figure walking along the roadside, picking its way through the ditch and the weeds and the water. Having the double ands was kind of bugging me. It could just be changed to picking its way through the ditch, weeds, and water.
Yeah, like have a comma there, like sort of like as you're naming off things.
Yeah, yep. Comma them all out.
Yeah.
Then we get to this paragraph, which I'm surprised neither of you jumped on.
Okay.
It's you jumped on the first one there, cultist. As Sam got closer, he saw that it was a man and a big one at that. You brought that one up. Because it didn't have a man, it was man.
Yeah, he saw man.
Yes, I deemed this paragraph the caveman speech paragraph.
Okay.
Because it does it on every sentence, so I rewrote the whole paragraph.
Oh, okay, yeah, well, let's see the original first. I want to hear the original, because I don't know how I missed it then.
Of course. So the next sentence, walking tall, comma, with a big stride, period.
Walking tall, with big stride. Okay.
Yeah, then just read period. He was dressed in all blue from head to toe, period. So those could just be connected to he was dressed in all blue from head to toe, comma, walking tall, comma, with a big stride.
Yeah.
And the next one, Sam slowed down, period. Maybe he could give the walker a lift a ways, comma, just to cut down some of the distance, period. So I just didn't like that Sam slowed down as the entire sentence because it's
Yeah.
talking about the exact same thing. Like the reason he's slowing down is to give him a lift.
Yeah. And I know why you do it, but I love that you absolutely vehemently hate small sentences every
It's
time.
like when it's like 2 or 3 small sentences talking about the same damn thing, just string them together.
I understand. I always find it get a chuckle because it's like it doesn't bug me as much, but I can understand why it bugs you.
Yeah. Either way, I changed it to Sam slowed down, comma, thinking maybe he could give the walker a lift, comma, at least part of the way to his destination.
For sure.
And then the last one of this paragraph, or at least some water, because that's its own sentence. The period. Then Sam always had a couple of bottles of water rolling around in here, comma, another one of Sarah's contributions. Also, there's a Sarah in this story, yay.
I did hear. I read that. I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Well, she's not here long.
No.
As we find out.
Thank God. Anyways,
Wow.
it's a fictional character. It doesn't matter.
I know.
So I corrected that to, if nothing else, comma, at least some water since it was so hot out, period. And that's a continuation from the previous sentence saying that he was slowing down to give him a lift part of the way to his destination. If nothing else, at least give him some water because it was so hot out, as 2 sentences. Sam always had a couple of bottles of water rolling around in his car. Another one of Sarah's contributions. I added the car in there just to like add some visual to the scene. Because up until this point, because he's a farmer, I automatically assumed he was driving an old beater truck. But he's not. He's driving a car because a couple sentences later it says that he's in a car.
Fair. I mean, it could be a truck and stuff because some people just don't. They use car and truck kind of interchangeably sometimes. So I'm not saying it's right because trucks and cars are visually different, but
yes,
they are both automobiles.
Mm-hmm. And then this next one I found was kind of broken up a little strangely.
Mm-hmm.
Parked out front, comma, next to their lone tree, comma, where he always parked and got out of the car, comma, his apple laying forgotten on the floor, comma, a single bite taken out of it, period. Sam walks stiffly up to the house, comma, 1 foot in front of the other, period. That was a lot of commas.
That was almost a run-on sentence kind of thing. That was like too
really
many
was.
Commas. Throw one away.
Yeah. But just the way it flowed seemed kind of weird to me. The way I rewrote it was, he parked where he always did, comma, out front, comma, next to their lone tree, period. Leaving the car, comma, with his apple laying forgotten on the floor, comma, a single bite taken out of it, comma, this is getting kind of comedy. Sam walks stiffly up to his house.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're falling into the commas.
I am. It's so easy to do. I get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just felt like it was jumping around a lot, and the wording of it was kind of strange.
Fair.
It's like one part of it is where he always parked and got out of the car. And while I believe what it's trying to say is like he parked where he always parked. That's the end of that thought. He got out of the car and his apple was still on the ground.
Yeah, like basically like if this was a movie scene, we'd like see him like getting out of the car and then the camera would like pan through the cabin of the truck or car. And like it would like suddenly he'd be blurry in the background walking to his like porch and we'd see the apple like in full view, like with the bite in it and such, like sitting there on the seat discarded.
Mm-hmm. And that is the end of my grammar in yellow for story 1.
Oh, okay. I was like, oh, okay. Oh, okay.
I sectioned it out. On to story 2. On to story 3. He didn't turn around, just kept booking it along the side of the road. That isn't booking it in my my book. Booking it is running like a bat out of hell. He's straight up just walking down the road. This is talking about the blue man walking down the road, and it says he just kept booking it along the side of the road.
Yeah, that's weird. Yeah, okay, that's weird because the blue man does. I've never the blue man doesn't seem to run or like is in a hurry. He's just striding. He's just like casually walking.
Yep.
He's just walking and rolling down to the beach. I'm strolling.
A little bit.
But them seagulls poke it by it. All right, I'll stop.
You're gonna get a copyright claim here.
We're gonna get a copyright strike.
You're too good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, that ain't booking it. Booking it is booking it real fast.
Booking is running. Like, run for your life.
Yeah, like maximum effort.
Yeah.
You have to raise your minimum effort as high as possible.
Oh my god! Way to have a callback to that.
Yeah, like that callback.
Yeah, to your favorite story ever.
I don't know about that.
You liked it a lot.
Probably. That was old me.
Wow.
I've aged.
For the audience at home, that's from I Dared My Best Friend to Ruin My Life. But
is it he's succeeding or which one?
Yeah, and he's succeeding. Yeah, that's the add-on. It's like he's succeeding or something. Like
yes.
That.
Or is that like the part? It doesn't matter. Regardless, I'm done with Grammar in Yellow.
Okay. Then I guess we'll move on to actual thoughts, which I have a lot more notes on.
Cool. I have a lot less notes on.
Perfect. Awesome.
Because that's how things work, apparently.
Yep. All right. So his was his and had been in his family since folks started coming out. Since folks started coming out here to the Midwest, and he'd be damned. He'd be damned if he wasn't gonna stab you in the face with a soldering iron. Sorry.
Nice.
So I started going walking a little bit there as I read that.
Stab you in the face with a soldering iron, yeah.
And he'd be damned if he was going to be the one that let it go. Okay, so basically this is talking about Samuel, like where he lives and stuff like that, and we get our one bit of description about where this story or where one of these stories takes place, which is not Ichor Falls. It's not even in West Virginia, and I looked, I Googled it. West Virginia is not the Midwest. There is a qualifying amount. There's a list of states that qualify to be the Midwest, like declared the Midwest. So, and I think it'd be fine if this did not start or finish at all in Ichor Falls, since his shtick is walking along roadsides and stuff like that. But you should probably have some kind of connecting thread somewhere in your story that is a nod to Ichor Falls. If you're going to submit a story to the Ichor Falls site, like maybe one, and maybe it is like, because we get a description of like the first one, which honestly the first story felt like the intro kill of like a slasher flick.
It turns out all of them are.
But yeah, then all of them really were just like an intro kill.
These are the intro kills for the first 3 Blue Man movies.
Yeah, exactly. That's honestly what it could be. But like, and then it cuts over to like, where he's made it to Ichor Falls. Like, I think they're like, and we don't get any kind of like details as to whether the other towns in the following up stories are in the Midwest or even are the same town that Samuel is in. So they could be like geographically, it's sort of nebulous. So like those towns could be in and around Ichor Falls, and you just need to like, I guess, to correct this, like to make it more clear that it's an Ichor Falls story. Like have it be a town that is just near that strange West Virginia town. Like you don't
even know the time. Like the second story could be years after the first one.
Exactly. Yeah. And like we've seen towns like other towns that like neighbor Ichor Falls in Ichor Falls stories, and those ones work out well because like again like there's a through line that Ichor Falls is in the world, but in this one like honestly it just feels like it's like one of those movies that like they obviously had they had a movie script that was like kind of good, but it didn't have the production company didn't have any sort of like didn't have any confidence in it to stand on its own 2 legs, so they just like slapped a franchise to it, like the Hellraiser movies kind of do sometimes with their sequels, where like
really?
Yeah, oh no, yeah, a lot of the later sequels to Hellraiser movies are clearly just scripts that somebody had written that were like half decent. Honestly, they'd be half decent if they were on their own and didn't have anything to do with the Hellraiser movies. But the company, like the production studio, had no confidence in that, so they just said, "Oh, we'll just slap Pinhead in it and call it a Hellraiser movie."
Oh, geez.
when they're clearly like has nothing, like it completely deviates away from what the Hellraiser stuff is.
Wow.
But this isn't al dente real talk. This is al dente rigor mortis. And this is Ichor Fall. So yeah, basically it's the same like kind of premise though. It felt like this kind of had like this was just sort of another weird creature that kind of similar to something from Ichor Falls, but like it doesn't mention Ichor Falls at all or even has like any kind of nod to it. So
yeah,
they
it's
just
an Ichor Falls like creature just with no mention of it. So
yeah,
it's
just it was submitted and it's on the Ichor Falls site, so it's an Ichor Falls story, but there's no mention of Ichor Falls in any capacity. So.
And you can assume that it's in the same universe just because it's on the same website.
Yeah, exactly.
Although having something there concrete
would be
way
nice.
Better.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at. Like, I mean, I'm fine with it being somewhere in the world as long as it's in the Ichor Falls universe. But we need just a sliver of connection. It can be threadbare, but it's got to be there.
Yeah, it could be like in one of the post-mortems after one of the deaths that happens. It talks about the police and how there was like a similar thing happening up in Ichor Falls a few years ago. Like anything.
Yeah, like maybe like and we'll get to like later in the story about how the story just kind of ends. But when it was getting good, i.e., a character was suddenly realizing things weren't just like happening for no reason. But but yeah, like that could have been like an addition on like maybe. Like the Deke looks into it and finds that like there's something like this has happened before and it stems from Ichor Falls, sort of thing. Like maybe the Blue Man came out of Ichor Falls. Who knows? But I will move on to my next note here. The car now stopped, headlights beaming absently into the darkness. Frankie sat stock still in his seat. A trickle of fear penetrating his alcohol-induced stupor. A man lay in the grass about 10 feet from his front bumper. And that was how Frankie killed the supernatural fiend.
Yeah, end of story.
But remember, don't drink and drive, regardless of the circumstances. Brought to you by MAD, Monsters Against Drunk Driving.
Wow.
I tried to tie it into like the Supernatural Task Force, but I was like, no, fuck it. I'm just gonna do a MAD rip, and just instead of mothers, it's Monsters Against Drunk Driving.
Wow.
Because again, we have another story where drunk driving is a thing because people are stupid. I'm gonna move on to my next one then, with that disclaimer out of the way of don't drink and drive, folks.
Of course.
He watched the metal coils start to glow red hot, and the water the water bubbled in turn. He waited until the water had reached a rolling boil, and then thrust his hands in. They turned red and blistered immediately under the water, but Frankie said nothing, just grinned, an empty grin, and boiled his hands. And before this, Samuel immediately went home, killed his wife with a hammer, and then blew his head off with a shotgun. So far, the Blue Man feels to have the similar MO or effects on people as
Bye bye man.
Like they basically get all possessed, like they get kind of like possessed by the influence of the creature, and then begin killing people around them and then themselves in an attempt to stop the mimetic spread of.
Bye bye man.
Like you have to clear your throat every time.
Yeah. As a quick note, I did actually look it up. So the story was submitted January 12th, 2009. The film was released on January 13th, 2017. So the Blue Man, or as I'm going to start calling it, the Blue Man. Sorry, that I could not do the blue. The Blue Man there. Now, future me will just drop my pitch to make it proper. The Blue Man. No, not high pitch, low pitch.
The Blue Man.
There we go. Thank you. But yeah, also funny thing is like, yeah, so the
Blue Man.
as I just like did that little funny bit, it's also incidentally an Earthbound reference.
Really?
Because there's a cult in, I think, Earthbound 2, or sorry, Mother 2, which is Earthbound 1. Oh God. Okay. Yeah. Translations to video games is hard as well, guys.
Yep.
There's a cult in the there's a cult in the game that is the blue cult, and they like if you have to say the blue like as like a password, and if you say the wrong thing, they get all angry and attack you and stuff. But I digress. I just thought that was funny that the Bye Bye Man, sorry,
The Bye-Bye Man.
has had like a similar thing to the Blue Man, and again they both came out around in January. But the Blue Man came out before.
The Bye-Bye Man.
So he got dibs.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Moving on. So I'm going to start with this one here. No one knew why he burned off his own hands. It just happened out of the blue. Ha! I get it. Because it's a turn of phrase that has blue in it, like the Blue Man.
Oh.
Okay, seriously though, that phrase being brought up legitimately has me wondering now if its effects on victims, like if the effects on the victims of the Blue Man had a connection to that saying. Like he was basically like an avatar of that saying where something just happened out of the blue. Hence why he's an all blue character.
If that happened in all three stories, yes.
Except it does happen in all three stories. All of them just
Not
like,
that exact wording.
Not the exact wording, but like they all just sort of like kill. They just suddenly go on a killing spree, or like they just like off themselves or hurt themselves out of the blue. That's like that's where every story ends off of. It was like people just like, oh, this stuff just happens out of nowhere sometimes. It's like, again, it's just like had me wondering. It's like is this actually like is this something I'm just kind of looking too deeply into the connections, or was this intentional?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
There's a cool connection though.
Yeah, and then we move on to this quote here. And Mick obviously kept his mouth shut because neither of them received a visit from the boys in blue. Man, this story is just pulling all the stops on blue sayings. Either that, or it's just a wild coincidence that I'm just seeing blue everywhere.
That might be the case.
This pen is blue. Thank you, liar. Moving on to my last note. With this quote here. That night, Deacon Hugh sat in a bar while folks talked about that sumbitch, Mick, who went crazy and shot up the bank and just laughed when the police shot him up. One old man just leaned back and said, "That's just the way things are sometimes." But Deke knew better. I'm a bit conflicted with this ending. Part of me is fine with it, with how it concludes, because the previous two stories end with people just chalking up the tragedy and to like something that just happens and then shrugging it off. And on the third shot, like the third story, we get a little bit of a wrinkle in that like repetition to create a kind of conclusion, because while everyone else is chalking it up, there is one person in the story that has more context and suspicion to what's going on. And that's
shouldn't there be two? Because there's also his buddy.
Yeah, but Hugh's silent. Hugh is a mute, as the story has proposed.
Which means he also has no thoughts for himself as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So, it just seems like I don't mind it, because it does kind of tie up the running repetition to a conclusion. But on another part of me is just like, wait, that's it? Fuck. Like, okay. Like, I wouldn't have minded having a little bit more to this story, I guess. Like, again, like I said earlier, like, what if Deke starts looking into the Blue Man a little bit and finds out like that he's been doing this like elsewhere and such, and like maybe it stemmed from Ichor Falls. Like this feels like this story could have gone a little bit farther. Like,
man, like, I don't understand.
What?
Because like from ages ago, like in the long ago, you're like, oh, I love mystery. I don't want to know everything. And I'm like, I want to know everything. And you give me shit for it. And then this story comes around. I'm like, that's cool. I like that I don't know everything. and you're like, I need to know everything.
Well, and here's the thing, like this is why I was conflicted by this ending, because like a part of me is fine with how this ending went, but a part of me is still like I kind of want more. So I'm not sure which side of the fence I'm on, or if I'm just sitting like kind of teetering on the middle section.
Mm-hmm.
I'm proposing both like sides of this.
Yeah.
For this. And yeah, I can see your point. Like it's like it is a mystery. Like he just like it just happens, and it ties off pretty end because first one, oh well, that just happens. Next one, oh well, that just happens. Second one, oh that just happens. But what if there's something to it? And then that's where it ends.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like I'm a little conflicted by the ending because it's like I don't know, the story, like as I was reading, I mean, weird. We're complex individuals that have different opinions and grow and change over the course of our lives. So like I can have a different opinion that I didn't have quite like a couple of years ago because my perceptions have changed over the years.
I just find it hilarious that
I know.
often when I think one way, you think the complete opposite. Even when I'm going in there going, okay, he's obviously going to like how mysterious this is.
And I do. Like, part of me likes that mystery of it. It's just, I'm just proposing.
Who
like,
are
I kind of.
you?
I'm a complex human individual gamer.
Uh-huh.
I change at the whims of stories. Like, that's why our show is very much an opinions show and not like objective. Because I feel like we do have like our opinions of stories and is super subjective in that it changes with every story we read.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, because like sometimes like we'll read like two stories that are similar, and I'll have like a completely different opinion of each one just based on like when I read it, how I read it, like all that kind of stuff.
What you had for breakfast that day, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Like where was I reading it? Was I in a hurry? Was I like given some time? Is it a long story? Is it a short story? Like, yeah, weird. It's like we're all different people and we have very complex opinions and perspectives on things.
Impossible.
I know. But yeah, so that's my last actual thought. Really, was just the ending left me a little conflicted because while I liked it, I still wanted more. So, but I will surrender the actual thoughts to Mikey. These stands for evil.
So, my first actual thought here was the question of what is the Blue Man's power? So, the closest thing I could come up with is the ability to turn thoughts and emotions into their extreme versions.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. I can see that.
Because Sam potentially suffered from suicidal thoughts, and the thing stopping him from pulling the trigger, so they say, was his wife. So the
He said he was annoyed by his wife, like changing his diet and doing stuff like that.
Oh, so yeah, it like twists like small feelings that we can suppress. It basically removes all the suppression of it and kind of like amps it up.
Yeah, and then take out the wife, and then he has nothing stopping him from killing himself.
Mm-hmm. I think he didn't even say like he'd be damned if like he'd be the last one to give it up or something like that or let go. And then the Blue Man encounter, and then he just goes on and like doesn't go like doesn't have anything left to go. So it like he lets go basically.
So what you're saying is the Blue Man helps people achieve their goals.
But in the worst possible ways.
Yeah, of course.
Like he gets rid of all the limiters that we have in our like mentally.
All the worst goals that you possibly have.
Yeah, all those.
Even if
all
it's
the
just like a tiny little, like not even a thought, you'll pick that out and be like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to give this to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a guy.
And then Frankie potentially has a slight fear of germs.
Yeah, a little bit of a germaphobe.
Yeah, and which is taken to the extreme with his hands because he touched the super unclean Blue Man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Was it mentioned at all that was a thing prior?
No, it wasn't.
No.
But it's sort of like in the actions rather than
Yeah.
They don't say it, but they act it out, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. They don't say
And
it.
then-
Yeah.
And then Mick was always looking for the thrill of doing illegal stuff.
And a lot bigger than just petty crimes and stuff. Yeah.
And what's more illegal than robbing a bank with a side of murder?
Yeah.
With a side of murder.
With a happy helping of murder.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, that's a good perspective on the power, like the power element that the Blue Man has over people.
Mhm.
Like when he locks eyes to you, he's like gazing into your soul to see what you truly want. All these things that you want that are bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not going to give you anything nice, of course.
Yeah, of course. Like that's not the point. He's like, oh yeah, no, it's sort of like be careful what you wish for sort of thing, or like somewhat like that. Maybe not entirely like that phrase, but
Mm.
Yeah.
But the Blue Man's just like basically a murderer, and he's looking through the person's psyche, being like, "What way can I murder this guy? Let's do this one."
let's take those surface thoughts that that this person just had, and just remove all the limiters and just crank up the volume to 11.
Mhm. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then the other thought process is that because there's 3 different things happen, that there could be 3 different blue men, a group of them, if you will.
Fuck. Damn it! You got me my own joke.
Wow.
Yep. And do they? Is this a story about a little man who lives, or a little blue man who lives in a blue house, in his blue, and has a little blue room with his? Yeah. Does he go to a blue house?
Yeah, Sam's is probably blue. Why not?
Yeah. And he has and I'm sure like one of them had a blue car.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's blue, ba dee ba, and there we go. There we go.
You finally got there.
Yeah. I'm surprised I'm surprised Frankie wasn't listening to that song on his radio. Like that should have been added on to continue up the blue phrases that are in the story.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. And my next thought here is continuing the thought process of where this is happening.
Mhm.
It's probably on any of the roads that lead to Ichor Falls. So
Yeah, I mean, if the story gave us a little bit of a little bit more of a nod to that, then I'd love that. Like one of those like Midwestern roads that goes all the way through into West Virginia, all the way to Ichor Falls. The interstate blah blah blah, otherwise known as the Blue Road. Ta-da!
and that's the end of my actual thought.
Actually, just to kind of add on to that for a second, yeah, that could actually be an interesting, like, again, that could be the nod for Ichor Falls, like the road that connects to like the road that's in Ichor Falls that eventually connects to the interstate that this all happens on, like along, like maybe all the towns are on the same road, are all on the same interstate, or on the same road that goes out from West Virginia to the Midwest. Maybe in Ichor Falls, that road's called Blue Street, and that's where the Blue Man started.
Or the entire like region that they're in is like Blue County or something.
Yeah, maybe that's like the next, like maybe that's like a neighboring county to Ichor Falls.
Mm-hmm. Is Ichor Falls? I don't remember. Is Ichor Falls like a county situation, or is it a town?
It is a town in West Virginia, I think on the Ohio River or somewhere, or like off of the Ohio River. And I don't think we ever get a name for the county around it. I think we just get a couple of the towns that are around it.
Yeah.
But yeah. But all right, so on to Gamer in Yellow.
Okay. The first note is just about the ballad in general. I'm curious if it's an actual traditional folk ballad somewhere,
I
like
actually didn't
that
look
they
that
pulled
up.
inspiration from.
Yeah, I didn't
You
look
did
that
or
up,
did
actually.
not?
I did not. I'm going to have to do that right now.
I did a quick Google. It just came up with this story. But again, that was just me spending like 1 minute
it could
doing
be.
a Google.
Yeah, I just found YouTube immediately has The Blue Man, an original Creepypasta song, which I'm guessing it's probably based off of this. Yeah, it's basically it's on creepypasta.wiki. Like this story is on creepypasta.wiki. Actually, wait, the story's on creepypasta.wiki. I can actually find an author.
There you go.
Maybe. This one is credited to Dylan Charles.
The only proper way to say Dylan.
Now take it with a grain of salt, but on creepypasta.wiki they credit this story to Dylan Charles. And it goes, and yeah, the link to Dylan Charles goes immediately to the Ichor Falls submission page of the Blue Man.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so yeah, well,
as far as we know,
yeah. Now here's the thing about I'm a huge fan of creepy nursery rhymes and like original folklore like songs and stuff like that because I love Pumpkinhead, the movie, and that movie started off as a small like Appalachian like folk song that that one of the filmmakers like friends made up.
Oh, sweet.
And they incorporated in the story, like in the movie, like the characters are like walking into town and like into this small like rural town in Appalachia, and the local kids are like running around and doing something. One of them says something bad, and the other kid starts scaring him by like saying this. Gets the other kids to start like saying the rhyme to him about Pumpkinhead. Like, give me a second. I'll pull up the Pumpkinhead verse because it's
don't summon him.
I would love to summon Pumpkinhead.
It's okay. He'll show up at your house anyways, not mine.
Yeah, Pumpkinhead rhyme. The Pumpkinhead poem it was written by Ed Justin, which would later be used in the 1988 film of the same name. The poem was not written specifically for the film, nor did it have any relation to revenge or demons. And the poem is as follows. Keep away from Pumpkinhead, unless you're tired of living. His enemies are mostly dead. He's mean and unforgiving. Laugh at him and you're undone, but in some dreadful fashion. Vengeance he considers fun, and plans it with a passion. Time will not erase or blot a plot that he has brewing. It is when you think that he's forgot, he'll conjure your undoing. Bolted doors and windows barred, guard dogs prowling in the yard. Won't protect you in your bed. Nothing will from Pumpkinhead. And just imagine like a bunch of little like Appalachian kids singing that, like singing that to one of their friends that they're picking on.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, it's I love those like little like creepy little poems for horror stuff. Like it's
a little poem, but that's a long poem, especially if someone's singing this to you as you're trying to get away from them. You're just hearing them continue. No. It's like, no, I can still hear it. No.
The thing was like all the kids had circled around the one kid, and they were just circling around him and just like weren't letting them move, weren't letting them get away.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, that's the Pumpkinhead thing. And yeah, again, like I'm a sucker for that kind of for that trope in horror stuff. So, but yeah, sorry, not to steer the reins from your actual thoughts.
That's fine. My actual thought was to ask your guys' actual thoughts on something. So
okay, well, yeah, you know what I think. I like it. I'm for it.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Mikey?
What was the question?
What do you think of the Blue Man? I feel kind of woozy. What was your thoughts on the Blue Man folk song or the folk poem that's in there?
I didn't think much of it. Originally, I thought it was just the same thing over and over again because I didn't actually read them when I got to them.
Wow!
Really?
Then I went back. It's like, oh, they're different. I guess I better read them. So.
Jesus. Okay, so you're not as like enthusiastic for like having little like intro verses or poems.
Yeah, the only thing that it helped was to help differentiate between the different sections in the text.
Yeah, it's a
Yes,
segue.
he was a very good breaker.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
This next part, he finally grabbed a hold of the apple without taking his eyes off the road and took a bite. He'd never admit it, but she was right. Damn fruit was growing on him. He snorted out loud at his wordplay and thought about telling Sarah later. My response to that is, you're doing my job for me. God damn it. Bringing up the image of fruit literally growing out of him and such.
Yep.
How dare.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when I read the first sentence, I'm like, oh, I can write a funny, and then the story wrote the funny for me, and I'm like, oh.
You son
Damn
of
it.
you some bitch.
Yeah.
Was no one else like bothered, like, so no one else was necessarily like annoyed or anything like that by the use of some bitch? Like, very like kind of, again, like accented like version of son of a bitch at the end of the story.
What?
At the end of the third story, like the old man says like something like that, some bitch.
Oh, yeah. Deacon Hugh sat at the bar while folks talked about that sumbitch Mike.
Yeah, like it's not
What
even,
about
it's not necessarily dialogue, but I was like, you know what, I'm fine with it. It's a term.
Yeah, that's not a grammar thing.
Yeah, I mean it could be, but like no, it's a dialect thing. It's fine. It gets you into the.
I
mood of
Google
the story.
sumbitch. Always shows up.
Well, it's probably on in dictionary.com by this point, or in the dictionary at this point.
It actually is.
Is it?
Yeah.
Some bitch, vulgar slang. Okay. Yep.
Oh, it's referring to prostitutes.
Well, that's one of them. The Urban Dictionary has it as lazy redneck slang for son of a bitch.
Oh, okay, here you go.
Which is more or less what they're talking about. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, sorry. Going back to your original thought here.
Yes. On to story 2. I don't have anything on story 3. I only have one for story 2. Okay. After he tells Frankie to get out, telling him to call a cab and all that, and Frankie saying no, Johnny, the bartender, sighed and went back to work. Not his problem. That's the quote. My answer to that is, really is your problem? Like,
yeah.
You okay with him hitting a family of 4 or something? Like, I get it. He's an asshole. But whoever he hits probably isn't. Spoilers, the guy he hits is an asshole.
Yeah. But all at the same time, like, I'm pretty sure bartenders will get like charged for letting a drunk like go drunk and like drive away.
Yes.
At least in Canada, I'm pretty sure that's some kind of legislation or law.
It kind of painted the bartender to be as big of an asshole as he was.
Kind of. Like, I mean, I get it. You're annoyed at this guy from his incessant like assholery in your bar, but like, yeah, and I so like, yeah, he's just given up. But like, again, that's a dick move. Like in the long run.
Yeah, like I guess if you're pushed far enough, you just say you don't give a shit. I get that.
Yeah,
but still,
it's an understandable dick move. Like, you're still a dick for doing it, but like, it's understandable, like, given the circumstances.
Yeah, I'm sure if he hit someone that wasn't a weird monster, he would be feeling bad about it for the rest of his life.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like, well, maybe I should have stopped Frankie from driving and killing that family of 5.
Mm-hmm. And that's about all I got for notes, honestly, before final thoughts.
Okay, so then I suppose we shall move on to final thoughts. I love the setup with the little verses that strung along the example encounters. I like the Blue Man's nature, and as Mikey, you brought in a little bit more focus. My parting thought on his powers and stuff is that he's a creepy walking brain fuckler.
Fuckler?
I love the word brain fuckler for mimetic viruses and shit that like fucks up your brain, like monsters that fuck up your brain. He to me, he's like an all denim Slender Man. Like, I just imagine this, like, it's like Slender Man's like redneck cousin who's like all in denim, like he's got the redneck tuxedo on, jeans and a jean jacket and such.
Or Or it's like if Jay Leno became a proxy for Slender Man.
Yeah.
Because he wears only jeans.
Yeah,
like
jeans,
pants, and a shirt.
Like I imagine like my description or my headcanon for the Blue Man is that he's wearing all denim. He's wearing a jean jacket jean jacket, jean shirt, jeans, like pants, blue suede shoes.
Ooh.
And now because you've brought up Jay Leno, now his face he's just got a massive chin.
Of course, yes.
But yeah, honestly, the ending left me a little wanting, but I'm okay with it still. Like, again, I'm a little conflicted about the ending. So I'm ultimately, though, I'll give it a mostly positive recommendation. Like, there's a little bit of cleanup that can be done, but I mean, what story doesn't have those kind of things? So,
was phone.
Oh, so I'm sorry. Yes, of course. Yes, the true exception to that rule.
Yeah.
Yes. Who was phone? God tier creepypasta.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, for this one, it's not. It's mostly positive. Like I'm not even gonna like give it like a partial recommendation. It's just like a mostly positive recommendation. You might want a little bit more at the end, but it does have a nice little like kind of tie off bit with the fact that like the first two encounters leave everyone just like whatever, and then the final one's like whatever, and then it cuts over to the guy who's like not just who's in the bar who's like, but what if not whatever?
Mm-hmm.
So
it's like this one time the Blue Man kind of fucked up because he left a couple of witnesses.
Exactly, that's what it was. And yeah, it's sort of like because he's got sort of a Gorgon look like thing, like, or a basilisk sort of like thing, like you have to stare into his eyes. But the fact that Mick was blocking the view of Hugh and Deke, they weren't mesmerized by the Blue Man. So
maybe the Blue Man assumed he got them,
or maybe he didn't even notice them. Like maybe Mick's presence was so like maybe his focus was so much on Mick, he just didn't even notice that Deke and Hugh were there.
Maybe.
Yeah, he's short-sighted.
he's just tunnel vision. Like he's just got like night full on tunnel vision. He just sees like one person at any given time. Mm-hmm. Yep. But yeah, no, that's my recommendation. I mostly positive recommendation there. So, Mikey, D stands for evil. Your verdict.
All right. So let's see. My notes here are: it's interesting. Stuff happens. It ends too soon because it needs more Deke since he knows.
It needs all the Deke. Just a big old pile of Deke.
Wow.
So sorry for anybody who listens to us whose name is Deke.
So, overall, I'm going to give it a partial recommendation.
All right. I see you fall under the part of my confliction at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That Gamer is not on. But speaking of Gamer,
for me, I'm going to recommend it. I agree there needs to be some sort of better mention of Ichor Falls, be it just even in the description of the poem, if it's like a traditional Ichor Falls story
that
or
would have
something.
Been, yeah, if the Blue Man, if the folklore, like if it had been like the Blue Man like folklore ballad. And then like it has like almost like a quote, like a quotation of like from this book by Ichor Falls historian, blah 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 blah.
Yeah, or if it said like the Blue Man of Ichor Falls is what the ballad was called, you know.
Yeah,
Just
that would be so good. Yeah, that would work. That's the only nod I need.
Yes, just some sort of nod.
Yeah, for sure.
It's cool to see the three different events happen to the three different people based on the same creature, or maybe not if they're a group. Though, like after the first one, yeah, I know, right? Though, like after the first one, it was pretty clear that as soon as they messed with the Blue Man, something shitty was going to happen as a result.
Yeah,
but it wasn't just the same thing over and over again. So it was different. At least it was personalized to each person. It almost felt like a series of SCP incident reports that have been fleshed out into proper mini stories, which isn't really a bad thing.
No. Yeah, I agree with that. That kind of feels like this entity, like if this entity was to be given an SCP like detail, like
Designation.
dossier, we'd see like basically some addendums or like some accounts of this creature.
Yep. I didn't expect the effects to be as they were. Like when Sam grabbed the hammer and everything when he got home, from the get-go, I didn't know he was being mind controlled.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say?
I saw as soon as that hammer came out. I think it's because I watched a lot of horror movies. As soon as like, oh, rip Sarah.
Yeah, I mean that was in the back of my head, but I was also there wasn't really anything that was blatant.
Yeah,
he's being mind controlled. They kept it on the DL.
Yeah, it could have easily been like he gets the hammer, gets inside, starts boarding up the doors.
Yeah, or he's just arming himself because he feels like the blue man's gonna get him now.
Yeah, that's fair.
He was gonna go in and warn her, and he thinks that this dude's chasing her, and then it was gonna be like a hide and survive from the monster kind of story. But no,
nope. He's got Nutter Butters, and he's gonna kill his loved ones, and then himself.
Mm-hmm. But overall, I liked it. It didn't mess around, and that's about it.
All right. So if you like what you heard, or if you didn't, leave us a comment in the comment section below where this gets posted, whether it be on Podbean, Facebook, YouTube, Tumblr. We're all on Twitter. Mikey is at the E stands for evil. The Gamer in Yellow is at the Gamer in Yellow, but without that W because his name is very long.
Yeah, it's gotta be.
Mm-hmm. And I'm at Review Cultist. You can also send us emails at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTIS@gmail.com. Where you can also leave us suggestions for other creepypastas, SCPs. If you have your own Ichor Fall stories that aren't on the submitted page, but you would like to share them, let us know. We'll take a look at them, we'll read them, we'll critique them, and post them. So, if you'd like to help support the show financially, you can go to Patreon. Look up Al Dente Rigor Mortis and select the backer tier you'd like to support us at. We have special episodes, early access, extra content. For our patrons that are helping support the show, thank you immensely. You're helping keep those hosting bills at bay. And as always, we very much appreciate that. And to our listeners and the creators of these stories, thank you immensely. Because without your listenership, it would be like talking to the void. Like every time we get a comment and such, like it makes us feel good. Even when they're like, it's like I don't understand why like you aren't a narrator podcast or like a narrator show on YouTube. Which happens more often than we like on our comments. But you know what? It's still like, you know what? Whatever. At least somebody tried to engage with us, so that's cool. Mm-hmm. And if you and for those of you that write these stories and share them online, thank you immensely because I love reading these stories. And I love hanging out with my buddies here every week and talking about these creepy stories and seeing why we like them, what could be fixed about them, what could be improved, why do we like them, why don't we like them, sort of thing. Like it's super fun. So and if you didn't write these stories, we wouldn't have this show because we'd have nothing really to talk about. So
yeah, I think I've finally come around to actually enjoying reading the stories to 380 episodes. It's like, you know what? I'm kind of actually into it now.
I've never been, but I have Stockholm syndrome now.
Yeah, I've just been doing it to help and be nice, but I'm like, you know what? It is kind of fun.
Oh my god!
No, honestly, that clicked ages ago.
Yeah, yeah, that clicked 2 years ago.
Something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. No. Again, can't thank all of you out there enough for writing these spooky stories and sharing them online. Until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey. The E stands for evil.
And I'm the Gamer in Yellow.
And this has been Al Dente Rigor Mortis for Ichor Fall. Sleep well.